if the estate comes out and says, we believe in this painting, right? And very sadly, we have a whole binder full of people's opinions of fake paintings, right? So when the estate comes out and says, we believe in this painting, this is a real Morrisseau, we are seeing record numbers for Morrisseau right now. When the painting is not authenticated by the estate, we see the same low values, right? But that being said, in a nutshell, that's what's happening, you know, in this time period. There has been studies done by, very competent people that look at Morrisseau's cachet and what company does he keep in the art world, in the mecca of the art world masters. And Morrisseau's works should be 10 times what they're worth right now. Even when you look at contemporaries in Canada, say Jean-Paul Raphael, his works go for $1 million, $1.5 million, right? Morrisseau probably has a greater standing on the world stage and the standing in Canada as a known artist than Jean-Paul Raphael, who's a great artist. Why is his works so devalued? It is because of the fraud. Now, in my crystal ball, right now, from that last, court case that we had, the judge just removed 1,000 paintings, of fake paintings off the market. And now working with our team of lawyers and what we're going to be doing and rolling out, we are going to be very successful in getting rid of the rest of the fake paintings, securing the market, showing the world that Morrisseau now has gone from the most frauded to the most secure, the most eyes on, the most attention, the most legal backing. And we will probably see I would imagine a great increase in the value of his works, especially since we're getting so much attention from the international community, and that is just expanding around the world. So I do see good times for our pricing coming up. And what that does is, as I said in my victim statement, Canadian pricing, art pricing, is at the very bottom of the industrialized nation. And Indigenous art is even underneath that. And we have to fix that. And we're going to fix that through proper data, proper curatorial work, but also if Canada's greatest Indigenous artist is getting pennies on the dollar, everybody else is reflected in that number. Because you can imagine the scenario if I said to you, and I went and I saw a beautiful Indigenous work, and let's say it was for $10,000, let's say, cheap. And why would I buy that if I could go get a Morrisseau for $10,000? If your number one guy is getting pennies on the dollar, why would I buy anybody else? I would go buy a Morrisseau for 10 grand. I'm not going to give the second, third, fourth, or 500th Indigenous artist $10,000. You're not Morrisseau. So if Morrisseau was $1 million, well, then we've broken that glass ceiling, and other Indigenous artists would, yeah, 10 grand, that's relational. 50 grand, that's relational. 100 grand, that's relational. So it is very important to clean up Morrisseau and to get the top tiered Indigenous artists in our history up into the echelon where they deserve.
Okay, and then I know that there's still, according to there's one more individual to be tried, but and I believe that's next year, depending on what happens. But obviously, you've been pursuing this for a while. You had to get the attention of authorities, and I think you mentioned late '90s to start, or early 2000s started to.
1896.
Okay, right. So, do you get the sense you're coming to perhaps maybe the end of a chapter here, where you can get back to promoting his work, which is really what you want to do, and his legacy, rather than do you feel that are you hoping you see getting toward the end of this fraud issue?
That's a great question. And you would think that we would. You would think that somebody getting 5 years, we would be, celebrating and popping the champagne and, enjoying, ourselves, but we're not. Partly because it's been going on for so long that you become numb to anticipation. But really, we understand that the ball is being punted back to us, right? And once the courts are done, they seized 1,000. There's 5,000 more to go, right? And the challenges lie in the bad policy. Now, if the heritage minister, minister of Crown Relations, Indigenous Crown Relations, minister of Indigenous Services, minister of Justice, Counselor General, and we all got together and said, we can't let this happen again. Let's get on it, and gave us the tools that we needed, such as exist in Germany. And this isn't making it up. Mishcon de Rea is a world international art fraud law firm of such high esteem. They know what works in Italy. They know what works in Germany. They know what works in France. We will put together the package to show Canada this is the legislation. Here's the absolute words. All you need to do is sign it up, right? And give us the tools, and we would join the 21st century. Right now, Canada is the Wild West. So the big hurdle now is getting Canada to change. Once that happens, then we can very rapidly clean this up and get back to enjoying, the wonderful sides of everything. What this does do to us is because for a long time we were being attacked. So we're not being attacked so much anymore. That energy we can put to positive things. We really need Google and these other providers to come to the table and stop ignoring our phone calls and our requests to remove the images and the blogs off the website. Because as you maybe heard in that courtroom, there the fraud rings were being very robustly supported by social media, and those have populated the search engines. And so a lot of the time that takes up our efforts is, let's say, a school board in Oregon that we just dealt with. We want to teach the Indigenous culture to our students in America and Oregon. Fantastic. We've selected these 8 works off the internet. Well, they're all fake. So we got to go through that, right? So if Google would just answer the bloody phone, take those offending illegal blogs that are infringing on our trademark, infringing on our copyright, and are supporting fraudulent paintings in a series of crime, that would be wonderful, Google. And I'm very happy that they're sitting on the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe. But if they would just learn that the Grand Shaman of the Anishinaabe is asking them to remove a bloody blog from a nutcase, that would be so helpful. Because in Canada you can't see it, but around the world you can, but it populates the search engine. So that would be extremely helpful, Google. Please answer our phone call.
That's right, yeah. And the other thing I was going to ask too is that you mentioned about the laws in Canada needing updating, that that's to be taken, fraud needs to be taken, or artistry fraud needs to be taken more seriously. Do you think though obviously these individuals were never expecting to, I don't think, to get caught or even charged probably. Do you think this is sending a strong message by the severity of these last couple sentences that this is really nothing, it's not something that you should engage in if to make money?
I hope so. Now, again, when with the analogy in the pricing, right? This is Canada's greatest artist ever produced, greatest Indigenous artist. And it took us 28 years to get to this point today, right? So if Canada's greatest artists had to work this hard, that we had to get a rock star to make a documentary to, shame Canada into action. And when they were shamed, and when we got that call from the Thunder Bay Police Department, we believed them. They took it to their heart. Detective Ryback, Van Driestek, all these people, wonderful. But if it took that level of Canada's greatest to get justice 28 years later, what chance does the second, third, fourth, or 500th have? Right? It's a depressing thought. Yes, it's going to deter people, but these guys are in Canada. Now, we have our strong suspicions because this is just not a Morrisseau thing. We feel that there is a significant amount of Maud Lewis fates. Now, Maud Lewis is one of Canada's greatest artists in the folk genre. There was a wonderful movie called Maud, and all these things. She should be celebrated. A lot of her fakes are, we suspect, coming from Hungary or Bulgaria. So the world knows. The world knows that Canada is a dumping ground for fake paintings. They know that our laws are antiquated. We need updating, and so they're dumping into Canada. They don't care if they destroy Maud Lewis or Emily Carr or Robert Davidson or Bill Reed or Norval Morrisseau. They don't care if they get, $5,000 or $3,000. Doesn't matter to them. So the world needs to know, through policy change, through legislation change, that Canada now is the gold standard of art protection in that sense. And Canada does a wonderful job producing artists, granting artists, colleges and universities. But once that baby is born, you're in the wind, right? So again, positive educational learning moment. And we're now even at the point where so much attention is on this that we have been working for the last year and a half with a computer scientist teams from around the world that has joined us. And we have developed the, well, at least in Canada, the first artificial intelligence program that can identify the attributes of a painter. And we were very fortunate in the learning of the artificial intelligence, because we had a robust collection through the estate that we could guarantee these are real. Morrisseau has been collected by national galleries and for many years, so we know it's real. But we also had the opposite side of the database. We had 1,000 fakes that the OPP Thunder Bay sees. So the machine has learned Norval's, and it is very accurate now in analyzing Norval's work to determine with probability what is real is what is not. Now, we have legal questions around that, and again, we need some policy change to help us with that.
Oh, interesting, but that's a pretty accurate way to, so it kind of takes out the looking at the painting. You actually have a computer which probably has a sharper eye even than maybe one of the most sharp art
What
evaluators, I suppose.
I'd also like to share on the AI, because here's the scenario that we deal with in Canada here, okay? And this was through the courts. And again, I love what just happened in the courts right today. I love it. The people, the energy, the effort, the work, I commend them. Um, some of the issues that we deal in an antiquated way in Canada, where a pair of shoes or a handbag has more rights than our culture and heritage. So one of the last court cases with the Kevin Hearn case, we had affidavits by Norval Morrisseau that the painting was fake. We had witness experts, Carmen Robertson, God bless her, painting was fake. We had, turned over a few witnesses from the fraud ring to say that the paintings were fake. We had the supply store where they bought the materials that the painting was fake. You could see on the back of the painting that a robot stapled the staples, and the staples were all brand new, and the frame was brand new. It was such an easy tell. And Canada is so blessed that we have this learning opportunity, and we're so blessed because these paintings are horrible. They're so easily to be identified. These are not masterworks. This is not, you don't need high forensic. These are at such a garbage level that it is insulting that it's been going on so long, but we're lucky because they're so terrible, right? And they're easily identified. So, God forbid that somebody with some actual painting forensic fraud talent would actually do some of these things, and we would be real trouble. So we had all this stuff at the thing, and the judge says at the end of the court case, he says, "Now, did anybody see this painting being faked?" And we had to say, "No, judge. Usually you don't go to the middle of a movie theater and paint a fake painting. You do it in a private." And so we had to admit, no, nobody saw this particular painting getting faked. So then the judge says to us, well, then it's 50-50. 50-50 goes to the defendant. Therefore, it's a real Morrisseau painting.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's a wow. Now, in Germany, if the estate and the legal expert says, I'm sorry, that's a fake painting, because everyone has to remember every single Morrisseau painting in existence, the estate owns the copyright of the image. You own the painting, but we own the image. We also, for the first time in Canadian history, have trademarked an artist's signature. So Norval Slavics, it says Copper Thunderbird. We have, for the first time in history, trademarked that signature. So every painting, we own the image. Our trademark is on that painting. So 50-50 goes to the defendant, therefore it's a real Morrisseau painting. Now, again, in Germany, if I say that painting is fake, you have to prove it to me that that painting is real, because you're enforcing property onto me. And some of these fake paintings that these guys did were horrific. Now, we all know Norval was a survivor of residential schools, right? And he was sexually and physically abused in those residential schools. So they did a series of those images, and it's father raping me, priest stealing my virginity. These horrific images that Norval never painted, never would, but they're attributing that property, that copyright property, onto us, which then, if it doesn't get exposed as a fake, academics study it, and in 100 years, when I'm not there to rant about it, it will go into history books that Norval Morrisseau painted this painting of a priest raping him. Not true. And so in Germany, you have to prove it to me. Again, if you're saying that this painting is worth $100,000, prove it to me. And in Canada, if I say a painting is fake, you can sue me for asset deformation. And
Right, yeah.
the auctioneers know this. They threaten us all the time when we say a painting is fake. And the fraudsters know this. They did it 30 to 50 times to everybody. So here we are, and wonderful organizations reach out to us, academic, university, government buildings, and they say, is this painting real? And then I say to them, I'm sorry, I can't tell you because of
Right,
Canada
yeah.
law. In my one hand, I have your reputation, right? And then in the other hand, I have being sued with asset defamation,
Right, yeah. So it sounds like they could
right?
certainly update the laws, but I have to write this up
Yes.
for real soon, so I should probably get going here. But thanks so much for being so available, and we'll probably talk again in this case, yeah, and updating us
Yeah,
on the case.
I would love to do a story on the AI and what we're doing for the Indigenous collections through all the museums. This is big. This is big. And I know you got
Yeah,
to go, but you need to circle back on me because this is a game changer that will affect all Indigenous people. And it'll also produce a revenue stream for Indigenous communities, as well as correct a lot of racial bias that goes on. So through the AI technology. So we
right.
need to circle back on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, anytime. And again, very insightful. And we'll have to do more stories for sure. But I'll
please
let you
do.
go. And thanks for giving us a comment today.
Thank you very much for
Okay.
your attention and have a
Okay.
blessed weekend,
Yeah,
eh?
you too. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Okay. Bye.